Dual forms and their types. If you work with dual forms, you probably already know that choosing the right form can make the entire extension process much easier. But there are many different types of dual forms, and they are not all the same. Let's start with the first one. This is a regular arched square. It has a defined square shape with a pronounced arch and straight, structured sidewalls. This type of form is great when you want to create a classic square shape with a clear architecture. The next one is also an arched square, but this is a half-arched version. You can immediately see the difference in the construction. The arch is not as deep along the entire length of the form, which creates a different profile and a different final result. This type of form can be especially useful when you want the architecture of the nail to look more natural. Now let's move on to the stiletto. This is a regular stiletto form. The shape gradually narrows toward the free edge and creates a sharp, elongated silhouette. Compared with a square form, the sidewalls and the free edge have completely different geometry. And this is exactly why you cannot choose a form only by its size. You need to look at its entire architecture. Next, we have a Salon Almond. This shape is softer and more wearable than a sharp stiletto. The sides gradually narrow toward the free edge, but the tip remains more rounded and elegant. This is one of the most versatile shapes because it can create a long feminine silhouette without looking excessively sharp. But now let's look at something completely different. This is a deep stiletto designed for a much longer extension. Pay attention to the depth of the form and the position of the apex. Here, the apex is much more pronounced. This architecture is designed to support a significant length while maintaining the correct proportions of the nail. When you work with long extensions, the position of the apex becomes especially important. You need enough structure in the stress-bearing area to support the length, but the nail should still look balanced from every angle. And this is where deep forms can be very useful. Now let's move on to edge forms. There are several different constructions of edge forms, and even though they create a similar overall style, their architecture can be different. The first version has one type of central construction and sidewall geometry. The second version has a different profile and a different way of creating the edge shape. This is a good example of why the name of the form doesn't tell you everything. Two forms can both be called edge, but they can create completely different results on the nail. So always look at the actual construction rather than relying only on the name. And now let's move on from dual forms to tips. Here we have a completely different approach to extension. First, let's look at the XS Square tips. These are very short and compact. They are designed for a short square shape and are perfect when you want to create a neat, minimal extension without adding unnecessary length. Now, let's look at the XXL Square. The architecture is completely different because we are working with a much greater length. With long square nails, it becomes especially important to maintain straight sidewalls and a balanced apex. The longer the nail, the more important the correct architecture becomes. Next, we have the XXL Coffin. The coffin shape starts wider near the base and gradually becomes narrower toward the free edge, creating that characteristic tapered silhouette. It gives you the possibility to create a long, dramatic nail while keeping the free edge visually balanced. And finally, and just like with the deep stiletto dual form, the architecture becomes especially important when working with extreme length. So, as you can see, there are many different types of forms and tips,